It's a paradox that the 20th century was both prosperous and war-torn. The first point to notice is that the conflicts were quite localized in space and in time. So it's not as if every year of the 20th century was violent and every country experienced war. Actually, it was heavily concentrated in the period between around 1914 and 1945, the violence, and it was geographically also quite concentrated in places like Central and Eastern Europe and parts of East Asia. So if one steps back, it becomes clear that the big picture in the 20th century was of rapid economic growth, but that too was not happening everywhere. Again, there was some regional, geographical localization in growth. The prosperity that we look back on when we talk about the 20th century was heavily concentrated in the Northern Hemisphere, particularly in the United States and in Western Europe. The rest of the world experienced a much more mixed economic history, a catastrophic economic history in some cases, notably in the Soviet Union and in China, where experiments with communism went disastrously wrong. I think we can see, if we try to learn from history, two quite plausible futures that lie before us. In one future, the problems that we are currently so preoccupied with, ranging from climate change to political populism to the destruction of employment by technology, make the world a much worse place. So that we look back nostalgically on the 20th century and say, couldn't we go back to those happy days? But there's another future which I think is actually more likely. And in that future, technology will prevail over the problems that we currently worry about so much. And we'll look back and say, do you remember in the early 2000s how much we used to worry about climate change and populism and inequality? And it turned out that those problems were actually on the brink of being solved thanks to advances not just in computer technology, but also in medical technology. I'm temperamentally rather a pessimistic person, but I've learnt from the study of history not to be too pessimistic, because things have been getting better decade after decade since around the 1770s, maybe even earlier. And it's a mistake, I think, to bet against continued improvement. It's not as if the technological innovations have stopped happening. If anything, they've accelerated. And from that point of view, I'm going to be, on balance, an optimist about this century.